today. I'm delighted to appear before you to speak about the proposed EU traffic light model for international travel, airport testing and aviation supports, and to answer any questions that you may have. My colleague, Minister Ryan, has highlighted the vital role that our aviation industry has played and will continue to play throughout this pandemic and beyond. And I wish to thank everyone involved for their hard work. The Government is committed to assisting the aviation sector in any way it can to ensure it can return to normal operations as soon as possible and maintain our global connectivity. I would like to mention at the outset the range of government supports that have been made available to the aviation industry. These include the horizontal government supports available to all citizens and businesses, including grants, low-cost loans, waiver of commercial rates and deferred tax liabilities. Many employed in the sector have been able to avail of the COVID-19 wage subsidy schemes and, where necessary, the COVID-19 unemployment payment. Larger aviation companies may qualify for liquidity support under the ISAF Pandemic Stabilisation and Recovery Fund. As you know, legislation has been introduced to allow for a state guarantee for refund credit notes to consumers of Irish licensed travel agents and tour operators for cancelled bookings, ensuring the monetary value is secured until such time as it is used in the future. These supports notwithstanding, it is acknowledged that our airlines and our aviation stakeholders have had to make difficult decisions in order to best ensure their long-term commercial viability. I and officials from the department continue to engage with industry representatives concerning their needs and supports over the weeks and months of this pandemic. Turning to the proposed European approach for COVID-19 restrictions and international travel, this proposal has a number of elements. It involves harmonised data and country coding under a traffic light model based on available EPI-data, which will be mapped by the European Centre of Disease Control, ECDC. This is an aspect of the proposal on which Member States can easily agree. However, other aspects of the proposal are more challenging, particularly discussions around testing and quarantine restrictions, which fall to the public health authority's competence and responsibility in each member state. The aviation industry has stated that in order for the proposed traffic light model to be viable, testing has to be part of the solution as an alternative to 14-day isolation, and measures should only be contemplated for higher risk locations. It has been made clear by industry that the achievement of this proposed model will determine future decisions made by industry. The European proposal is the subject of intense discussion, but it is expected to progress to a decision at the General Affairs Council on the 13th of October. In the meantime, the Member States are endeavouring to find a compromise in the challenging areas of testing and restriction regimes. With regard to airport testing, you will be aware that a number of European countries are currently offering the option of testing of arriving passengers either at pre-departure or on arrival, usually PCR testing as an alternative to restrictions. The DAA recently presented me its research into options for COVID-19 testing at its facilities at Dublin and Cork. Such a proposed testing service could also potentially be extended to other locations. The preference for airport testing involves testing that is quick, cheap, available and meets the public health threshold for accuracy, specificity and sensitivity. The aviation industry is proposing antigen as a preferred option for travel testing. This is understandable given the relatively cheaper price and quicker turnaround time. However, antigen-based testing is not considered by the World Health Organization to be suitable for an international travel testing context. The DAA has carried out research into other types of testing. However, their application is not yet fully validated. It is clear from my discussions with industry that consideration around testing and the traffic light system will determine the future direction of international travel. My department will continue to lend support to the aviation sector through this difficult period by working steadfastly with stakeholders on these important issues. And I'm happy to answer any further questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks very much, Minister of State Naughton. Now I'm just going to move on to members, and the first lot is Fianna Fáil slot, so we have a number of members. So who's going to go first? Deputy Cathal Crowe.
We're going to go 2 minutes each.
2 minutes each. We have six minutes. So.
Yeah. I'll be very quick to point, just to welcome the two ministers to the chamber. First of all, one thing I want to hone in on is the passenger figures in and out of Dublin, Cork and Shannon and Knock airports. In Q2 of this year, 155,000 flew in and out of Dublin. 62 out of Shannon. 808 Kerry and 7,800 from Cork. COVID aside, there is there's a dramatic imbalance here, and it's not being addressed appropriately. Shannon's market share in that period was 0.07%. There is a need for some policy review here as well, Minister. It's not all just about rapid testing and getting passengers in safely and out the other end safely. We need something. Shannon's on its knees, and its very solvency will be in trouble if there isn't action taken in that regard. I would like to hear the Minister's response to those figures, that dramatic loss of share for Shannon, how they propose in policy terms to address that, and what measures in advance of the European Council meeting on October 13th, what measures are already being put in place to deal with the new measures we will hopefully be moving to. Thank you.
So I call on the Minister to reply, please.
That's it, Deputy Crowe. We are all concerned about the situation in every one of our airports. The figures are across the board dramatic. Airports, for the airlines, for people working in the industry, and that's a real problem for this country and this government. We have to retain our connectivity as an island. We depend on it, so we seek to do that across the board on all routes in all airports, but particularly in Cork and Shannon, as you say, because of the regional importance in developing that. Can I say that the only way we can manage this is we have to get the balance right between protecting public health and maintaining connectivity. The best way of supporting the airports, supporting our aviation industry, is to make sure we get that it is safe and that people are confident that the approach we're taking is working to help us manage the virus as well as manage our aviation industry.
Thanks, Minister. No, I'm just really tight in time, so I'm going to call in Senator Dooley.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I welcome the presentation. The reality is that Shannon was under pressure prior to the emergence of the COVID pandemic, but it's sheer survival is now in question, and unless we can get an appreciable level of activity back at Shannon Airport, then I think its future is in great jeopardy. So, Minister, I would appeal to you and to the Department and to the Government to engage proactively with the proposals from the European Commission to get a level of activity, a level of movement of passengers throughout European countries. Of course, it will be difficult for the forthcoming period of time, but we do need the government to sign up to that, and I'm sure that's what we'll hear from the airlines and the airports later. I think you're well aware, Minister, that notwithstanding reaching agreement at European level to get some level of passenger movement, it's not going to be viable for airports like Shannon to retain the services that it has had. Airlines will need very significant support to keep key routes open. And for Shannon, the key routes, and there are many important routes, but the key routes for me is Heathrow and the UK generally, and the east coast of the United States, principally New York and Boston. Can you give us some guidance or some indication that the government will look favourably on providing route support to those strategic routes for both tourism and business to the region? Thank you.